how this technology will have an impact on intellectual property. So today we're going to do a keynote and go through some basic fundamentals of what's an NFT. And I also like to share with you some use cases to help inspire the creatives out there. We are now in the age of creator economies, and it's a really, really exciting time. I want to begin the story also of what's happening today when it comes to the internet. And I want to talk about Web3 and what Web3 is about. So in order for us to kind of get an understanding of that, what I want to do is kind of just go back to the beginning of Web 1, which is the .com era, which is kind of the first phase of the internet where it allows us to create these amazing companies like Google, Amazon, the eBays, the PayPals of the world. Most of the platforms, though, that we visited during the .com were sites that we went to find information. That was what Web 1 was all about, getting our websites, getting our emails, getting our communications. And it is a really exciting time because in 1995, there were only 16 million people on the internet. Fast forward today, there are 4.5 billion human beings that use the internet, and our world has transformed since then. Web 2 is the next phase of the internet where we start to participate, we start to write, we start to express. We see vloggers on YouTube, we see people blogging on Facebook, sharing their life experiences, the blogging on Twitter, and on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So this is a really exciting time also to see people sharing and expressing themselves in different ways. So this is the writing. We're actually able to write. And this moves us to Web 3. What is Web 3 all about? Web 3 really is about ownership. If we can buy a car and a home today, and we can buy and sell it when we want, why can't we do that on the internet? And it's mainly because for a long time, the networks have been centralized. So all of the data that we create, the pictures that you post, the messages that you send, all of that data is captured by centralized network, and they capture most of the value of that, if not all of the value. In Web 3, it's about data ownership. So moving from a centralized world to a decentralized world. And what that means is we will own our own data. We should be in control of our own data. And so what I want to do is talk about how that is going to be relative to what's happening in intellectual property. So let's talk a moment about the value chain. So I want to go through an example of, say, a musician, an artist, but it can apply to anything, a filmmaker, a storyteller, anybody that is creating anyone that is creating any type of intellectual property. So in Web 2, a fan usually will access your content through a retail platform, and that's usually delivered by a distributor. And that is usually given by a record company, and that record company could get that from a label or production company, and the musician is at the end. He signs the deal. But in this scenario, creatives are last in the value chain. Anytime a payment comes in, deductions are made, and the royalties make their way back to the musicians. However, royalties are usually paid in months. In Web 3, using this new technology of blockchain, smart contracts, tokens, and wallet, this is about changing that. So there's a big shift happening. And this is about making musicians or content creators at the beginning of the value chain and using these protocols to actually interact in new ways with fans and communities. But overall, this is really about the transformation of royalties. Instead of getting paid in months, we will be getting paid in near real time. And that's what is really, really exciting. We're talking about royalty automation for intellectual property. So for all creatives, that should be, a something that we celebrate, mainly because it's going to allow for us to build creator economies. So what's a creator economy, right? Think Disney. He's someone who comes up with a character, builds a story world, and can build an entire economy around that. Whether you're a filmmaker, whether your film can extend into a game, whether you can create merchandising, whether you can create VR and AR experiences, or even tickets to a movie, a show, a concert, or even something inside of the metaverse. This is about programmable digital assets that are verifiable by a creator. So think art, music, games, even in fashion, collectibles. So a lot of different categories and a lot of different verticals we can see in this creator economy. So what I want to do is just go into a few case studies of NFT projects and just talk about all the different applications for NFTs and intellectual property. So here's a TV use case of a black astronaut character called Aku, and he's the first NFT option for film and TV. It was able to raise $2 million in NFT tokens, and it did that in a 24-hour period. Fast Company recently just named them the top 10 most innovative media companies in 2022, and it's really exciting that content creators can actually have an alternative. Instead of going to a studio or a high net worth individual to write a check, that they can actually go to a community. They can find new ways for crowdfunding. So this is a super, super exciting time. In television, animated series also, another project that stands out, Stoner Cats, was able to sell out in 35 minutes, bringing in $8 million for its animated series with, a group of very talented and awesome actors, right? Some of them that we know and that we love. These are new ways for us to actually interact and to raise capital inside for the purpose of intellectual property, whether it's movies, films, TVs, animated shows. So this is something that I am super excited for. I want to switch gears a little bit also and just talk about also what's happening in music. You have artists like Tory Lanez now that are using NFTs to interact also directly with their fan base. They can drop them out an album and sell an album for $1, for one album for $1, and he was able to sell 1 million of those in 60 seconds. So these are NFTs that allow people to download their songs, their artwork, their creative, but it also allows them to use these as collectibles and create new markets. Another use case is Grimes. She made $5.8 million in NFT sale, and she did it under 20 minutes. So I point this out also because it's creative expression, but it's also an economic expression. And the technology of creating an NFT for the purpose of capital formation or to program the assets that your artist can participate, that is also a very exciting thing that's happening. 3Lau makes $11.6 million from his NFT sales. This is one of the use cases that I think is very promising, just because these are early days and these are anomalies at the moment, but I think in the future it's going to open the door for a lot of different content creators, especially the writers, the storytellers, the musicians, the photographers, the producers, everyone to really be able to leverage this type of technology and use NFTs and smart contracts to create some really rich intellectual property. A comic book series now also. So the Marvel film producer Ari Arad, who produced Iron Man, is announced that he's co-producing a film adaptation of the artist Ben Morrow's Ethereum NFT comic book project. So here's a comic book that is created and minted on the Ethereum blockchain, and you have a producer now that wants to take that adaptation and bring it to the screen and expand its IP and all of its potential, potentially creating maybe a new comic book movie or maybe even studio. So that is super exciting. But if you look very closely at the success of all of those projects, there's one thing that we all see, and that is that it's communities that create the network effects. The fans, the followers are the ones that are engaging and giving the IP its value. So for Web3 users, they know that they create these network effects. So instead of giving that value to the Facebooks and the centralized networks, that you could do that in a decentralized environment, and users can participate in that with this tool that we call NFTs. The value is captured by the Web3 users, and this is all about participating and being able to have digital rights ownerships. In other words, if you buy a digital asset, you have the ability to take it with you, to sell it, to buy it, to do whatever you want. We don't have that flexibility today on a lot of the centralized networks. The other thing is that the protocols and networks that we use to achieve all of these NFTs are borderless transaction. This is 24/7, 365 across different type of blockchain. So you could think of these as networks, as liquidity pools also that content creators can tap into, as well as their communities can tap into. So what is an NFT? So an NFT is a programmable asset. But before anything, I want to just give a little bit of context of where this idea comes from. So in 2008, we had our financial collapse, and this prompted someone by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto to write a white paper, which will be the premise of what will become Bitcoin. So why is Bitcoin important? It is important because of the underlying technology, which we call the blockchain, that this is creating the change. It's infrastructure technology, and it's doing something that we couldn't do before, which is create scarcity in a digital world. We didn't know how to do that before. Now with the blockchain, we can identify that. So it's all about creating scarce digital assets, whether it's a one-of-a-kind art piece or a collectible. Blockchains allow us to create that scarcity. So this is a huge technology breakthrough that we have to understand. And I do think that blockchains with smart contracts at the center are going to disrupt the capital stack. In other words, we can fractionalize different parts of debt or equity. And this is one thing that I'm really excited about, because I think there's going to be a new chapter in the entertainment industry, in Hollywood, of creative people, of producers, financiers, finding really cool ways for capital formation using smart contracts and using NFTs. So fungible versus non-fungible. So when we think of fungible, we can think of something like the US dollar. It's tangible. Each unit is exactly the same. And in Bitcoin, each unit is the same. The difference between cash and Bitcoin, though, is that cash is designed as an inflationary asset, and Bitcoin is designed as a deflationary asset. In other words, it has a fixed amount of tokens. So for non-fungible, we think of something like a Van Gogh piece of art. It is a one-of-a-kind. So an NFT, you can create a one-of-a-kind piece of art that is scarce, that is a one-of-a-kind. And this is the technology that I am most excited about moving forward for all of the content creators and the tools that they're going to use. I would think of NFTs as maybe a modern day e-commerce. So the difference, though, is in e-commerce, you have your credit card company, your merchant service, your bank, and everyone on the other end. When you use a tokenized system, it is peer-to-peer, so there is nobody in the center of that transaction. It is completely peer-to-peer. So the transaction, very simple. Someone wants to come buy an NFT. We use wallets, crypto wallets. So we use applications like MetaMask and Trust Wallet and SafePal and all these other great applications. And we use tokens to actually be able to send value for an asset that's being sold. So once, and this is all happening without any intermediaries, which is the exciting part. So if you have a piece of art and someone wants to buy it from you, they would simply send you a token. And once the blockchain verifies that that transaction is complete, then that digital asset will be sent to the buyer. All happening without any intermediaries. So that leads me to, what can you do? Can you build new marketplaces? When we look at CryptoPunks and Bored Apes, we see that these are projects that have been able to exceed $1 billion and $2 billion of a marketplace. So what does that mean when it comes to royalties? Using NFTs and smart contracts to create your NFT collections and build different marketplaces. Also, you can use you can dial in a royalty rate anytime an asset is bought or sold. So if, for example, if you sold $1 million of a digital asset and you program 20% into that smart contract, you would receive $200,000. And if this is something that can go viral and become as big as CryptoPunks, the possibilities, I think, are endless. This is why you see also the Hollywood agencies now running to represent the CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, and I do believe that there's going to be others. So super exciting time. Who is going to create these next versions of what Disney created, right? These are super, super cool creator economies. And we also have to talk about marketplaces, right? The biggest marketplace at the moment is OpenSea. I think they've been one of the innovators in the space. It has a tremendous amount of liquidity. It has about $3 billion that it had in volume back in August. So as we're going through a change right now in the market, we see a little bit of a cool off, but we do feel that this technology is here to stay and it's going to continue to grow. Snoop Dogg, I think, is a really big story when it comes to all things crypto, when it comes to blockchains, NFTs. This is a super exciting time to see Snoop heading into the metaverse, into platforms like Sandbox is super exciting. Building out his environment, his home, using virtual land, building digital assets, making it available to his fan base and making it available and building a marketplace also inside of Sandbox, which is, I think, also another opportunity. You will be able to build these creator economies across multiple different metaverses. He also recently brought Death Row Records back, which is another amazing story. So he recently, Snoop sold over $44 million worth of the Stash Pocket NFTs for his new album, BODR, in under a week. So this is a good example of how we use NFTs and for capital formation to sell into marketplaces, to interact with fans. And it's happening at a much faster pace. So this Snoop is someone you definitely want to follow on social media, on Twitter. He's always posting great posts. He's buying art. He's an avid art collector and an NFT collector. So make sure you follow Snoop. He's doing some amazing things. Also, other metaverses that are closed, like Fortnite, also bringing in artists like Travis Scott to have virtual concerts, immersive experiences, where he was able to have 12 million attendees and earn approximately $20 million in merchandise sales. And here's a fun project that I'm working with a very talented group of developers right now. And I just wanted to share this with you just to show you how people are using the technology today. That's a fun little project called Mad Droids, a play to earn model. It's an Axie Infinity meets Pokemon Go. And when I see things like this, I can imagine, this is a game, yes, but could it be more than that? And for me, yes, it's an animated series. It's so much more than that. And these are the ideas that we're beginning to see coming out of creator economies. So it's a super, super exciting time. Also, I wanted to share an art community, which is the whale community. Whale is a social currency that is backed by tangible and rare NFT assets. Today, they started originally in 2018 with about $500,000, but they've been able to grow their NFT vault up to $140 million. So they have all different type of NFT and digital assets. But what I love about it is it's a great example of a community coming together of artists talking and supporting one another and creating value in the marketplace. Another exciting project is a project that is based out in California. This is the home of the producer of the movie Tron, which is actually the first metaverse movie in popular culture. So this is a home that he has an amazing art gallery. And in this art gallery, he has all these amazing pieces. And some of these pieces also are being created by artificial intelligence. So some generative art happening in this space. He recently installed 3 very large 8K high definition displays to show some of these art pieces, and now is expanding the art gallery, not physically, but also now into the metaverse. So you can create these virtual galleries that are as big as the Louvre or as big as Modern Museum of Art, excuse me. So this is something that I see a lot of excitement around in the art world, of course. But I think also creating art galleries in places like Sandbox, that's going to be exciting because I think it's also going to create rich, immersive experiences, but also new type of marketplaces as well. And aside from the art gallery component, there's also a new metaverse being built, which I think we should be hearing a lot about in the very, very near future. So the metaverse. The metaverse is already around us. It's everywhere right now. We see it in gaming. We see it in DeFi, which is decentralized finance. We see marketplaces. We see virtual reality. We see virtual galleries all over. We see meme culture expanding. We see entertainment, but I'm excited because I think all of the great storytellers now have these new tools that they can use to create capital formation around their ideas and connect that to communities and fans and followers to participate in that. So the metaverse is just about creating a much more immersive experience, whether it is with a VR headset, or maybe it's using augmented reality with your mobile phone. All different possibilities. It is just limited to your imagination. And also, I do think that we are moving towards a change in the way things are structured now. So you're probably going to be hearing the word DAO, which is short for decentralized autonomous organizations. And I think this is about creating new type of entertainment companies as well, where communities can help empower creatives across all different verticals: art, music, game, collections, collectibles, and how many of these groups also are now beginning to put digital assets under their balance sheets, you could say, kind of following in the page of what Tesla's doing and 40 other publicly traded companies today. You see them hedging against what's happening with the US dollar and inflation. Another exciting thing with NFTs is that NFTs can also be used to stake and yield. So making sure that the assets can actually work for you in the near future. So I wanted to share this. I know I'm sending you down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I strongly advise to go down the rabbit hole, to go through the education of learning about blockchains, NFTs, the marketplaces, creator economies, and finding people that love your idea, that want to support your idea, that want to get behind your idea. How do we create a different environment where royalties now can actually make their way back to the content creators? For many years, that was a problem. This is a really interesting study that was done by Visual Capitalists. So it's a study of tangible versus intangible assets. So when we look at the investors and broader markets, so intangible assets now account for 90% of the S&P 500's total assets. So what does that mean? It means that investors like patents, brands, customer data, software. So they like the intangible, and that's where they're placing their bets. And I think that that's kind of where we're moving as a culture, ownership. And that's what Web3 is all about, that ownership. So in essence, maybe money is going through a change. Originally, our barter system was decentralized. And then we found tools like shells, but it was still decentralized. And then we found precious metals, and it was still decentralized. It's not until the invention of paper money and the banks where we begin to centralize, and then plastic money. And now crypto and NFTs are kind of a call back to a decentralized environment. So the medium of exchange, the way we transfer value back and forth now, peer-to-peer in a more efficient way. I think we're moving in that direction. You may hear the term gas. Yes, gas is something that we use to pay transaction fees. Sometimes they are high, yes, but I think in the future, you will see those transaction costs come down. I usually remember the early days of the .com when broadband was a problem, the little dial-ups, and we couldn't really get video streaming the right way. Eventually, we resolved that. The bandwidth opened up. And I think that this is happening now with gas on these protocols. Eventually, that will come down, and the user experience overall will change and improve. So I leave you with this. For all you content creators, all you creatives, producers, financiers, can you build the next NFT studio? Can you build a new studio in the metaverse for your music, for your stories, for your animated series, for television? This is the age of creator economy. It is really a fantastic time to learn about the technology, to empower your projects, to get them financed as fast as possible, and to engage with community and fans all over the world.